1 year ago, Super Mario Bros. Wonder hit the market, and it impressed all of us with its creative 2D level design, with its wonderful mechanics, its unique take on the Mario franchise, and as a huge success and my personal game of the year. I've spoken out a lot about how Mario Wonder is now my favorite Mario game ever made, about how much I adored it, about how special it is to me, about how it's a banger on Switch. Probably one of the console's best titles, right? But for that initial period after launch, and even a little bit before that when it first came out, there was a lot of damage control going on in the community. Lots of people saying this game wasn't going to live up to the hype, that it wasn't going to be a big deal, that it was going to sell very well, that it looks like New Super Mario Bros. 5. People threw everything they had at the wall at it, right? Trying to downplay this release and trying to call it a failure, right? And what did they settle on? What was the big cope that they used to complain about Super Mario Bros. Wonder? To write off all of its successes, all of its popularity, all of its fans. What did they do? What did these desperate pretendos with their backs against the wall come up with? They invented what is quite possibly the biggest giga cope I have ever seen in my life. They claimed that no one was talking about it. The big Nintendo reveal at that June E3 2023, right? A huge holiday release title, right? A game that plenty of people were talking about. The industry tried to do this thing where they tried to gaslight you into thinking nobody was talking about it. And this kind of goes into what I've been saying a long time. A long time. Uh, I've been saying this for a long time in regards to the online gaming community. They don't dictate what is and isn't popular, right? The things that people talk about online are not relevant in the grand scheme of things. Just look at Astrobot, right? A couple of weeks ago when that game came out, you had idiots like Stealth 40K. Who was the guy who came out and said that, like, straight up said that Astrobot outsold Mario Wonder, right? There were a lot of YouTubers saying that, right? People were saying this game was better than Mario, that it was bigger than Mario, that it was more innovative than Mario, that it was more difficult than Mario, that it was a better platformer than Mario, right? You had people coming out right out of the gate trying to call Astrobot superior to not only Mario Wonder, but the entire Mario brand as a whole, right? Like, again, it was so laughably ridiculous that people just called it out for what it was eventually, right? And of course, Astrobot has gone the way of Knack at this point. But again, this is what I mean when I say these games are being astroturfed. So when a game is astroturfed, it creates this artificial illusion that other games that aren't astroturfed are not nearly as popular, right? So, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, you would imagine, going by how this game was talked about online, how everybody was trying to gaslight you into thinking it wasn't very good, or it was a disappointment, it was underwhelming, or it didn't sell very well. You would think that Mario Wonder did significantly worse than Baldur's Gate 3, right? But actually, Mario Wonder did sell more, was on a much more relevant gaming platform, is a much more reliable, much more successful. It's from a much more successful IP, right? It's gonna have real legs, right? Like, again, I heard people like coming up with like insane copes. Oh, has Mario Wonder outsold New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe yet? Well, I mean, if it didn't, that's to be expected, considering the deluxe version of New Super Mario Bros. U has sold like 20 million units on Switch, right? That game is an absolute huge success story. But nobody likes acknowledging that because it goes against the narrative that New Super Mario Bros. Is a played out, dead franchise, right? 2D Mario is irrelevant according to gaming journals and analysts because, like, if you were allowed to acknowledge that 2D Mario is as popular as it is, that it was as successful as it is, suddenly you would have yet another Nintendo IP to get excited about, right? Again, like it's kind of remarkable seeing like analysts, people like Raging Golden Eagle, like seriously try and sit there and try to tell you that like Nintendo only has Mario and Zelda. When in like reality, they have so much more than that. The Mario brand alone, right, encompasses like RPGs, party games, strategy games, like platformers, 2D and 3D, like sports. You know, like if you try and write off Mario, like you are just making yourself look like a fool, right? You are straight up delusional. And there are, of course, like other franchises on Switch that are also hyper successful. You know, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is and Fire Emblem Three Houses are two of the highest selling games in their franchise ever, right? And that success is going to carry over into the future. And you know, the future of Nintendo looks bright, basically, very bright. But the industry cannot bear to face it. This is like the delusional thing about the gaming industry right now is that they seriously think PlayStation and Xbox are going to go bankrupt and gamers are just going to flock to PC and mobile, especially with PC, right? They delusionally believe that Nintendo is not going to remain competitively viable because of like constantly evolving technology and brands. Completely like unappreciative of the fact that Nintendo has the most versatile lineup of gaming franchises in the world, right? They can put out new hardware, they can adapt to changing market trends, but there's this delusional mindset that they're always behind the curve, right? That they're not evolving, that they're not remaining competitive, that they can't compete, but they're winning. Like again, and games like Mario Wonder are a really good example of what I mean by that. This is a game that basically nobody took seriously during the Game award season, right? People were like shilling Spider-Man, Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3. Like Alan Woke 2 got more hype from game journals than Mario Wonder. But I think out of all the games that were nominated at the Game Awards, even the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I think Mario Wonder, out of all of those, is by far going to be the most fondly remembered because it was a new entry in 2D Mario that hadn't gotten one in a long time. It had a bright new, vibrant style to it, all these incredible mechanics. Like Mario Wonder, I think, is very, very strong evidence. Now, actually, proof, straight up proof, that the 2D platformer is still alive and well. But because this is a genre that is dominant on Nintendo platforms, you're seeing a bunch of people like doing everything they possibly can to deny it, right? They can't bring themselves to admit that Mario Wonder could be a game of the year contender, right? It's only being nominated because it's Mario. If it was another franchise slapped onto it, like it wouldn't even get nominated because nobody is talking about it, right? And again, here's the big like contradiction in that narrative, right? The big like just self-defeating nature of it. Nobody is talking about Mario Wonder. You hear this repeated over and over again ad nauseum, like like some kind of religion, right? It's their prayer, right? Nobody is talking about Mario Wonder, but you hear it so much, you hear these people say it over and over and over again, you begin to realize that like these people are talking about Mario Wonder. They are downplaying Mario Wonder. They are trying to pretend that Mario Wonder was not a big deal, was not successful, was not an excellent new entry in the Mario franchise and a stellar title on Nintendo Switch, right? They are obsessive in talking about Mario Wonder, right? And again, like this goes into what I've been saying for a long time is that like it really feels as if Pretendos cannot downplay Nintendo IPs like they used to, right? It felt like back in the 2000s, all you had to do was just say that like, oh, the old ones were better. Nintendo doesn't. Has it been growing up with its audience, right? They aren't putting out cool new IPs anymore, and people would believe it, right? They were tricked into going for the more mature, cool PlayStation and Xbox consoles. But as time went on and people began learning more and more about this stuff, they began having more of an appreciation for what Mario was. They had more of an appreciation for what Zelda was. They began discovering new and interesting IPs that did appeal to an older demographic, right? Nintendo did keep introducing new IPs, even though a lot of these people keep insisting that they don't, right? The reality is, um, what the Pretendos do, their constant insistence that Nintendo doesn't innovate or that they don't deliver high quality products, it is nothing but a gigantic cope. And we really do need to start thinking of it as such.